What if your soulmate isn't someone you need to find, but someone God has already chosen and is preparing for you? Could there be spiritual signs you're missing that confirm who your God-ordained partner truly is? Have you ever felt a divine nudge in your heart? Something deeper than emotion, pointing to someone uniquely placed in your life? My friends, today, I want to talk to you about something sacred, something that has been designed by the hands of Almighty God Himself, something that every heart longs for: true love, divine connection, and the one person God has set apart just for you. You see, love isn't just an emotion. It's not just romance or attraction. Love is a calling. Love is a covenant. And when God brings two souls together, He leaves no room for doubt. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12 that a cord of 3 strands, man, woman, and God, is not easily. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's. Well, not broken, but how do you know? How can you be sure? The world will give you 1,000 opinions. The enemy will try to confuse you. But my friends, God is not the author of confusion. He is a God of clarity, a God of purpose, and a God who reveals His will to those who seek Him. So today, I want to share with you 6 divine signs, 6 undeniable ways that God confirms who your soulmate is if you open your heart and listen, if you seek Him. First, He will lead you, because when God writes your love story, it is a masterpiece. From the very beginning of this insight, not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, creation, God designed relationships to be rooted in Him. When He formed Adam, He saw that it was not good for man to be alone, so He created Eve not just as a companion, but as a partner who would share in Adam's divine purpose. This foundational truth tells us that a godly relationship is not just about love and companionship, but about a spiritual connection that draws both individuals closer to their Creator. A true soulmate, as designed by God, will always encourage and strengthen your relationship with Him. They will not be a distraction. From this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, your faith, nor will they lead you into compromise. Instead, they will inspire you to seek God more, pray more, and walk in obedience to His word. This is a crucial sign, because when 2 people are spiritually aligned, their relationship is built on an unshakable foundation. The Bible reminds us in Corinthians 6:14, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? This scripture is not just a warning, it is a revelation that when this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. When 2 people are not spiritually aligned, there will always be tension, division, and struggles that could have been avoided. When God sends the right person into your life, their presence will ignite a deeper hunger for Him. Within you, conversations will be rich with discussions about faith, testimonies, and Scripture. They will encourage you to trust in God in times of uncertainty, to lean on His promises, and to worship Him with all your heart there. Love for God will be evident not just in words, but in action. They will be a person of prayer, integrity, and this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, faithfulness, reflecting the fruits of the Spirit in their daily life, you will notice that when you are with them, you do not feel spiritually drained, but spiritually uplifted. They will pray with you, intercede for you, and join you in seeking God's direction. Another sign of spiritual alignment is the way both of you approach life's decisions. A godly soulmate will not make major life choices without seeking God first. They will consult Him in prayer and trust in His timing. They will encourage you to do the same. When two people are spiritually, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will that align, they walk in agreement about important matters, not because they share identical thoughts, but because they share the same foundational beliefs. Phys 303 says, "Can two walk together unless they have agreed to do so?" A relationship without spiritual alignment is like two people trying to walk in different directions while holding hands. Eventually, someone will have to let go. It is also important to observe the fruits of a person's relationship with God. Do they truly love the Lord, or do they merely acknowledge Him? Jesus said this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will that in Matthew 7 verse 16, you will recognize them by their fruits. A person can say they believe in God, but their lifestyle, habits, and choices reveal the depth of their faith. Someone who is spiritually aligned with you will have a consistent and personal relationship with God, one that is not dependent on circumstances. They will not compromise on their faith for worldly pleasures, nor will they encourage you to do so. Instead, they will challenge you to grow, to pursue holiness, and to be a reflection of Christ in all that you do. A godly relationship is not this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will without challenges. But when two people are spiritually aligned, they face those challenges with faith instead of fear. They fight battles on their knees, seeking God's wisdom rather than relying on their own understanding. They do not allow pride, ego, or selfishness to dictate their actions. Instead, they choose humility, forgiveness, and grace, because they understand that their relationship is a reflection of Christ's love for the church. Another key indicator of spiritual alignment is how you both handle conflict. A person who is truly aligned, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, with you will not fight to win arguments, but to find solutions that honor God. They will value unity over pride and will seek reconciliation rather than division. They will not allow anger, resentment, or unforgiveness to take root, because they understand that a heart surrendered to God does not harbor bitterness. Ephesians 4 verse 26 reminds us, "Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry." When both individuals are spiritually mature, they will navigate disagreements with wisdom, patience, and love, always prioritizing God's will over. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, personal desires, spiritual alignment also means that both individuals share a vision for the future that aligns with God's purpose. A godly soulmate will not only support your dreams, but will encourage you to pursue God's calling on your life. They will understand that your purpose is not just about success in the world's eyes, but about fulfilling God's plan. They will not discourage you from serving in ministry, growing in faith, or pursuing the work that God has placed on your heart. Instead, they will walk alongside you, cheering you on. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, praying for you and ensuring that their own calling aligns with what God is doing in your life godly. Relationships require sacrifice, selflessness in it, unwavering commitment to putting Christ at the center. When two people are spiritually aligned, they will be able to withstand trials, resist temptations, and build a love that is deeply rooted in faith. They will view their relationship not as something to fulfill their own desires, but as a covenant designed by God for His glory. They will love selflessly, serve joyfully, and remain. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will, steadfast in their devotion to Him. When God is the author of a relationship, He confirms it with divine peace. This peace is not just a fleeting emotion or a temporary sense of happiness. It is a deep, unshakable assurance that comes from knowing you are walking in alignment with His will. The Bible tells us in Philippians 4 verse 7, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This kind of peace is a crucial sign that God is guiding you toward your soulmate. It is not based on this insight, not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, the circumstances, emotions, or personal desires, but is rooted in His divine presence and purpose. When you are with the right person, there is no overwhelming fear, anxiety, or confusion about the relationship many people experience. Constant doubt when they are with the wrong person. Questions fill their minds about whether they are making the right decision, whether they are settling, or whether the relationship will last. But when God is leading you to your soulmate, He removes that internal turmoil. Instead of uncertainty, there is this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. A quiet confidence, an inner knowing that brings stability to your heart. Divine peace is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of God in the midst of them. Every relationship will have its ups and downs, but when two people are meant to be together under God's plan, they navigate difficulties with a spirit of unity and trust. They do not feel a sense of dread about the future or worry about whether they will be abandoned or hurt. Instead, they experience a sense of security that comes from knowing God's. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Hand is in their relationship. This peace reassures them that even in moments of disagreement or hardship, God is in control, and His plan will prowl. One way to recognize divine peace is by observing how your heart and mind react in the relationship. When you pray about the person, do you feel at ease or do you feel restless? Do you feel God's presence affirming the relationship, or do you sense an uneasiness that lingers no matter how much you try to ignore it? God speaks through His peace, and if you find yourself constantly unsettled or filled, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Without it may be His way of redirecting you. A relationship that lacks divine peace often carries an undercurrent of tension. Even if everything seems perfect on the surface, there may be a deep-rooted feeling that something is not right. Sometimes people ignore these signs because they're afraid of letting go, afraid of being alone, or afraid of missing out on love. But true love, the kind that God ordains, does not come with tormenting fear or doubt. As 1 John 4 verse 18 says, there is no fear in love, But perfect love casts out this insight, not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will. Fear, if a relationship causes constant emotional distress, uncertainty, or exhaustion, it is not a reflection of God's peace. Divine peace also manifests in the way both individuals approach commitment. When God brings two people together, there is no fear of betrayal, no hesitation about the future, and no second guessing their love for one another. Instead of feeling the need to prove themselves or constantly seek validation, both individuals rest in the assurance that God is in control. They do not feel rushed or pressured to make. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will. Decisions out of fear of losing each other. Instead, they allow God to guide the timing of their relationship, trusting that He will align everything perfectly. The presence of peace also influences how a relationship handles external pressures, family opinions, financial struggles, career uncertainties, or personal insecurities can test any relationship. But when God's peace is present, these challenges do not cause division or lead to panic. Instead, they are met with prayer, patience, and faith. Both individuals find strength in God. Rather, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, then in their own understanding they know that their relationship is not built on human effort alone, but is being sustained by God Himself. Another way to recognize divine peace is by evaluating how the relationship affects your spiritual life. A soulmate chosen by God will not distract you from your faith, but will help you grow in it. You will not feel spiritually drained, disconnected, or distant from God. Instead, you will feel closer to Him because the relationship aligns with His will. If being with someone makes you feel guilty, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will. Thus, spiritually stagnant or less focused on your walk with God, it is a sign that His peace is not present. God's peace also works through the confirmation of wise and godly counsel. Those who walk closely with the Lord, mentors, pastors, and spiritually mature friends will often sense whether a relationship carries divine peace. If multiple godly individuals express concerns or see red flags, it is important to take those warnings seriously. On the other hand, when a relationship is ordained by God, those who love and seek this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, Him will often affirm it with their encouragement and support. Many people mistake excitement and infatuation for peace, but there is a clear difference. Excitement can fade and emotions can be deceptive, but true peace remains steady. It does not waver based on circumstances. It is present in both moments of joy and moments of hardship. It does not need constant reassurance because it is deeply rooted in trust, not just in the person, but in God's ability to lead and sustain the relationship. When God confirms a relationship with His peace, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will. It does not mean there will never be difficulties or moments of doubt. However, it does mean that at the core of the relationship, there's an undeniable sense of security, a confidence that is not shaken by minor disagreements or external challenges. Instead of feeling burdened by uncertainty, both individuals feel uplifted, strengthened, and reassured in their love for one another. When God brings two people together, their relationship is not just about romance or companionship. It is about a shared purpose that aligns with His divine plan. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. God does not create relationships simply for personal happiness. He creates them to fulfill His kingdom's work. When two people are truly meant to be together, their individual callings will complement and strengthen one another rather than pull them in opposite direction. This shared purpose is a key sign that God has ordained the relationship. Throughout the Bible, we see examples of God bringing people together for a greater mission. Adam and Eve were created to steward God's creation. Abraham and Sarah were chosen to. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Establish a nation. Priscilla and Aquila work together in ministry, spreading the gospel and strengthening the early church. These relationships were not just about emotional connection, they were about advancing God's kingdom. In the same way, a godly soulmate will not distract you from your purpose, but will encourage and equip you to fulfill it. A shared purpose does not necessarily mean that both individuals have the exact same calling. Instead, it means that their callings work in harmony, complementing one another. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Way that glorifies God. One person may be called to ministry while the other has a heart for business, but together they use their gifts to support and uplift the work of God. One may be drawn to teaching while the other has a passion for outreach, and their combined efforts create a powerful impact. The key is that their goals, values, and vision for life align in a way that strengthens both their relationship and their mission for God. A relationship without shared purpose often leads to conflict, confusion, and frustration. When two people are heading, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. In different directions, spiritually, emotionally, or professionally, they struggle to build a unified, pure future. One person may feel unsupported while the other may feel held back. This tension can create a sense of dissatisfaction where one or both individuals feel they're sacrificing their God-given calling just to maintain the relationship. But when two people share a purpose, they move forward together, supporting and uplifting one another as they pursue what God has placed on their hearts. The one way to recognize if this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Relationship has a shared purpose is to examine whether both individuals inspire each other to grow in faith and service. A godly soulmate will challenge you to step into your calling with confidence. They will not discourage you from following God's plan, but will instead push you to pursue it wholeheartedly. They will pray for you, give you wise counsel, and stand by your side as you walk in obedience. Their presence in your life will make you more passionate about serving God, not less. Another way to recognize shared purpose. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking. Love according to God's will.is by evaluating whether the relationship promotes spiritual growth. A relationship that is built on God's foundation will naturally lead both individuals to seek Him more. They will worship together, study the Word together, and encourage each other to deepen their faith. They will not be content with a superficial relationship, but will desire to build a spiritual partnership that honors God. If a relationship weakens a person's faith, distracts them from their calling, or causes them to compromise on theirs. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Beliefs, it is a clear indication that the purpose is not aligned with God's plan. A soulmate sent by God will also share similar values. When it comes to serving others, they will both have a heart that seeks to glorify God in everything they do, whether it is through ministry, career, family, or personal relationships. Their desire to honor God will be reflected in how they treat others, how they make decisions, and how they prioritize their time. They will not be self-focused, but will look for ways to serve together using their talents. And this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Resources to make an impact for God's kingdom. A shared purpose also means that both individuals are willing to sacrifice for the greater good of their relationship and their calling. They understand that love is not just about personal fulfillment, but about serving God together. They are willing to put aside selfish ambitions and work as a team, knowing that their relationship is part of a bigger plan. They do not compete with each other, but complement one another, celebrating each other's strengths and supporting each. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Others' weaknesses, they see their relationship as a partnership, not just for their own benefit, but for the glory of God. God's plan for relationships is never random. He brings people together for a reason, and when He does, their paths align in ways that are undeniable. There's a sense of unity in their goals, dreams, and vision for the future. They do not feel like they are forcing their relationship to work, but instead they see God's hand guiding them in the same direction. They experience confirmation. Through this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Scripture, prayer, and even through the encouragement of godly mentors who recognize their shared calling. When two people are truly meant to be together, they will find joy not just in each other's presence, but in the work they do for God. Their love will be built on something greater than emotions or attraction. It will be rooted in a purpose that is eternal. Their relationship will not just be about making each other happy, but about making an impact for God's kingdom. They will walk hand in hand, not just toward a future together, but toward a calling. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will, that glorifies the one who brought them together through love as designed by God, is not based on fleeting emotions or temporary attraction. It is built on a foundation of commitment, sacrifice, and unwavering faithfulness. A soulmate sent by God will not give up when challenges arise, nor will they base their love on convenience. Instead, they will be steadfast in their devotion, standing firm through trials and difficulties. This kind of commitment is a reflection of God's own love for His people, a love that endures, remains unshaken and grows this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Stronger with time, the world often portrays love as something that fades. When things become difficult, many relationships today fall apart because they are built on emotions rather than on true commitment. However, godly love does not waver based on circumstances. It is rooted in a covenant, not just between two people, but with God Himself. This is why marriage is described in the Bible as a sacred bond, a representation of Christ's love. For the church, Ephesians 525 states, "Husbands, love your wives." Just as Christ loved the church, this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will, and gave Himself up for her. This kind of love is not conditional or self-seeking. It is sacrificial and endure. When God brings two people together, their relationship is tested and refined. There will be moments of difficulty, misunderstandings, and external pressures, but a soulmate will remain committed through it all. They will not walk away when times get tough, nor will they allow pride or selfishness to dictate their actions. Instead, they will choose love even when it is difficult. This is the essence of true commitment. It is a choice made. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will, daily, not based on how one feels in the moment, but based on the unchanging foundation of love and faithfulness. One of the ways to recognize this kind of love is by observing how a person handles conflict. A soulmate chosen by God will not seek to tear down, manipulate, or emotionally withdraw when disagreements arise. Instead, they will work toward reconciliation with patience, humility, and grace. They will value the relationship over winning an argument and will approach difficulties with a heart that seeks peace rather than this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Division Proverbs 1:5-501 reminds us a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. A godly partner will communicate with kindness and understanding, choosing to resolve issues in a way that honors God. Another sign of unshakable commitment is consistency. Many relationships start with passion and excitement, but over time, one or both individuals lose interest or become distant. A true soulmate will not be inconsistent in their love, affection, or dedication. They will be reliable, trustworthy, and steady. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. In their actions, their love will not fluctuate based on circumstances, but will remain constant regardless of life's ups and downs. They will prove through their actions that they are in the relationship for the long haul, not just for temporary happiness. A godly relationship is also marked by perseverance. Every couple faces challenges, whether it be financial struggles, health issues, or external opposition. But when a relationship is built on a foundation of faith, these challenges do not lead to separation. Instead, they bring the couple this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Closer together, they stand firm in their commitment, relying on God's strength rather than their own. Ecclesiastes 412 states, "Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. A relationship where God is at the center will not easily be torn apart, because it is held together by something greater than human, while it is sustained by divine grace. Patience is another hallmark of true commitment. Love is not always easy, and people are not perfect. There will be moments of frustration, and this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, disappointment. But a soulmate will practice patience, knowing that love is about understanding and growth. They will not be quick to judge or give up, but will instead extend grace. Just as God extends grace to his people, they will encourage personal and spiritual growth, allowing room for mistakes while also fostering accountability. A soulmate will also prioritize the relationship over external distractions. In today's world, many relationships are weakened by misplaced priorities, work, social media, personal ambitions, or even unhealthy. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, friendships, but a godly partner will make the relationship a priority, not neglecting it for temporary pursuits. They will invest time, effort, and intentionality into nurturing the bond, ensuring that it remains strong and healthy. They will not allow outside influences to create distance, but will guard the relationship against anything that could cause division. Forgiveness is another key aspect of unshakable commitment. No relationship is without flaws, and both individuals will make mistakes. However, a soulmate will not hold grudges. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will. Or use past failures as weapons. Instead, they will practice forgiveness, understanding that love requires letting go of bitterness. Colossians 3 verse 13 instructs, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgive you. A partner sent by God will choose reconciliation over resentment, always seeking to restore rather than to destroy. Faithfulness is also a defining characteristic of true commitment. A soulmate will be loyal in both actions and thoughts, remaining. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, devoted to the relationship, even when faced with temptation, they will honor the relationship with integrity, respecting boundaries, and guarding their heart against anything that could compromise their faithfulness. Their love will not waver based on personal desires or external influences, but will remain steadfast, because it is built on trust and reverence for God's design. A relationship ordained by God is one that withstands the test of time. It is not easily shaken by hardships, nor does it crumble under pressure. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, it is built on more than just emotions. It is built on a covenant of love, strengthened by faith and guided by divine purpose. When God reveals your soulmate, he does so with unmistakable signs, divine peace, unwavering faith, a shared purpose, and an unshakable commitment. A God-ordained relationship is not based on fleeting emotions or worldly desires, but on a foundation rooted in faith, love, and purpose. It is a love that reflects his own, a love that endures, strengthens, and glorifies him. If you find yourself searching for this insight, not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's. Will that confirmation do not rely on your own understanding? Seek God in prayer, listen to his voice, and trust the peace he places in your heart. A soulmate sent by God will not cause confusion, but will bring clarity. They will not pull you away from your faith, but will draw you closer to him. They will not weaken your purpose, but will strengthen it. God does not make mistakes. When he brings two souls together, it is for a purpose greater than themselves. He orchestrates every detail, aligns every path, and confirms his will through his word, his peace. And this insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment. When seeking love according to God's will, that his spirit trust in his timing, wait on his confirmation. And when he reveals the one he has chosen for you, you will know not by the standards of the world, but by the undeniable signs of his divine hand at work. This insight not only grounds us in truth, but also strengthens our spiritual discernment when seeking love according to God's will.